You've seen it, you've heard about it, and now you're ready to play it. Dungeons and Dragons. You're excited, but something stands in your way. The internet is all of a sudden telling you to stop playing D&D. I'm Brad Wolf, and welcome to Dire Den. Today we are talking about D&D in 2023. And I am specifically speaking to those of you who are brand new to the hobby and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. There's been a lot of consternation around Dungeons and Dragons lately, and there's a lot of people who are jumping ship and moving to other games because they don't like the business practices of Wizards of the Coast, the company that makes Dungeons and Dragons. But that does not need to prevent you from starting this great hobby. If you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, play Dungeons and Dragons, because guess what? There's trolls out there who are eating Chick-fil-A, ordering Warhammer from Amazon right now, and they're not letting judgmental people get in the way of their fun. But I'm here to tell you, don't let anyone gatekeep your fun for any reason. The game of D&D has been around for decades, and that's far longer than this recent drama. So for the purposes of this video, when I say Dungeons and Dragons, I'm referring to the game made by Wizards of the Coast. However, when I say D&D, I'm referring to a group of games that are all similar enough that once you learn one, you can easily pick up the others. So today we are looking at multiple different versions of D&D and how you can get started playing this fun game and do it in a way that you want to and in a style you want to. So in spite of all the different opinions out there, the reality is this. We are currently starting June 2023. The two biggest manufacturers of D&D are Wizards of the Coast, who makes Dungeons and Dragons, and Paizo, who makes Pathfinder. Pathfinder will release a new edition starting in October with 2 new core books, which will be followed by 2 more core books released next year in 2024. Wizards of the Coast is doing a new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which also won't be finished until 2024. So with all the drama and the fact that there are 2 new editions to the 2 biggest versions of D&D, the question becomes, should I buy anything right now? Shouldn't I just wait till 2024 when those 2 editions are released? No, don't put off being a dungeon master any longer. Here are 10 ways to start running D&D in 2023. All 10 of these would cost you less than $100 and give you enough game content to play every other week between now and the 2024 release of Dungeons & Dragons. There is no excuse to not start today. Number 1 on the list is the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit. It's the cheapest and easiest way to start and continue playing Dungeons & Dragons. So if you don't care about the OGL debacle and all of the drama that has gone on with Wizards of the Coast, and you just want to play this game, right now you can get this kit at Target online for $17. There's 2 great things about this kit. It's specifically designed to help you learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons, and it comes with a code for additional higher level adventures. So with the additional online content from D&D Beyond, you can run this adventure from 1st to 13th level. Even though this box set only gives you 6 character levels, there's the System Reference Document, also known as the SRD, where you can download the basic rules of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons for free. As long as you don't care about the resentment directed at Wizards of the Coast right now, you can dive into Dungeons & Dragons and play an adventure from 1st to 13th level for less than $20. So number 2 on our list is Ozric, which stands for Old School Reference and Index Compilation. The name's weird, but this is a retro clone of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. And this was one of the first games to recreate the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons game from 1978. It's a cleaner and clearer interpretation of the rules. This one book contains the majority of the content from the original 3 Advanced Dungeons & Dragons books. Ozric is so close to the original rules that it allows you to run classic AD&D modules. And these are modules that have stood the test of time. I would recommend starting with a great trilogy of modules known as the L series: Secret of Bone Hill, the Assassin's Knot, and the Deep Dwarven Delve. While these were published separately, Assassin's Knot is a great adventure to weave in and out of The Secret of Bone Hill. It's a murder mystery set in the town of Restonford, the central location to the Bone Hill module. As a new DM, if you don't think you're ready to run a murder mystery, I would suggest replacing Assassin's Knot with Keep on the Borderlands. This would allow you to strictly focus on dungeon crawling. I would recommend starting with the Guardhouse dungeon from Secret of Bone Hill, then transition to the Caves of Chaos dungeon from the Keep on the Borderlands module. By the time you finish those two dungeons, the characters should be around 4th level, and that's a great time to go back to the Bone Hill Castle dungeon, which will get your players up to 6th level, and that's a perfect time to tackle the Deep Dwarven Delve dungeon. The other great thing about these old modules is they are extremely affordable. Since Ozric is a free download, if you go the PDF route, you get the game and a campaign for only $15. If you want printed versions of the modules, that only bumps the cost up to $30. That's $30 for a new game and a whole campaign. This is a great way to start playing D&D. Number 3 is Labyrinth Lord. Just like Ozric is a retro clone of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, Labyrinth Lord is a retro clone of the Dungeons & Dragons Basic and Expert sets. While we call AD&D First Edition, it's actually more complicated than that, but it doesn't really matter. Without getting into a lot of D&D history, the Basic and Expert sets coexisted with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. There's two differences that are important here. Number one, both Ozric and Labyrinth Lord use descending armor class. In newer editions, the higher armor class is better, and in retro clones, a lower armor class is better. All that really means is that retro clones can be directly used with the older modules. The other difference that's important to Labyrinth Lord, there's not a distinction between class and race. Essentially, races are classes. Ozric and newer editions, you choose a race and you choose a class. So in Labyrinth Lord, you have 7 classes to choose from: fighter, wizard, cleric, thief, halfling, elf, and dwarf. Labyrinth Lord is also free to download, which makes it an extremely affordable entry point to D&D. Because it's a recreation of Basic and Expert D&D, you can run the Basic and Expert modules with it. And some of the best modules from back then are the Veiled Society, Night's Dark Tower, Master of the Desert Nomads, and Temple of Death. Veiled Society is also a murder mystery, but it's not as complex as Assassin's Knot that we referred to earlier. Night's Dark Terror was specifically designed to move dungeon masters from the basic set to the expert set. Back in the day, basic D&D was designed for dungeon crawling, and expert D&D introduced wilderness and travel. So Night's Dark Terror was specifically designed to help DMs run wilderness encounters. These first 2 modules take place in the Grand Duchy of Karaminkos, and the other 2, Master of the Desert Nomads and Temple of Death, both take place in neighboring territories just across the Karaminkos border. So these adventures weren't specifically written to run in succession. They are all geographically related, and they all relate to the idea that the Grand Duchy of Karaminkos is a new government surrounded by dangerous enemies. In total, these 4 modules can take player characters from 1st all the way to 10th level. So this campaign could easily last a year, even if you're playing every week. So like Ozric, Labyrinth Lord is another great way to run old school adventures. Number 4 is Basic Fantasy. This is another old school version of D&D. However, it's not a direct clone of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, but more a love letter to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Therefore, it's not exactly like Ozric because it has some modern convention, including ascending armor class. And because it's based on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, you have separate race and class options. The greatest thing about Basic Fantasy, it was never intended for profit. All of the books are completely free PDF downloads. And the back cover of the book says, "Do not pay for this." I think that's fantastic. You can pay for a print-on-demand copy if you really want a physical version of the book. because there is no profit margin, you only pay the cost of the book itself. If I was starting a new group with basic fantasy, I would use the Morgan's Fort adventure. It has a solid starting town and a nearby dungeon. This allows player characters to move back and forth from town to dungeon, dungeon to town, which is an old school way of playing as the players slowly and steadily divide and conquer the factions of the dungeon. It also includes overland travel and additional dungeons outside the first. However, it might be a little difficult for first level characters. So I recommend downloading the Adventure Anthology Volume 3. In my opinion, this is the best of the Adventure Anthologies, and I would use it to run the Grave of Gareth as your first level adventure, using that to get the player characters up to level 2 and then dive into the Morgan's Fort adventure. One last thing that I really like about Basic Fantasy's adventures, the monster stat blocks are right there in the encounter, so when you're using the PDF and you print out the pages you need for that night's game, you can track the hit points on your printed pages by checking off the monster's hit points. Basic Fantasy is a true labor of love and a gift to the RPG community. Number 5 is Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy. It's the last of the retro clones on our list, and what sets it apart from the others? It's a hybrid of the basic expert D&D and advanced D&D. It also provides both armor class systems, so whether you prefer descending or ascending armor class, every stat block has both. You have the flexibility to play the way you want to play. Old School Essentials is easily the most popular of these retro clones, and it has an absolutely fantastic layout. A good starting adventure combo includes Winter's Daughter, The Weird That Befell Drigbolton, and In the Tower of Shadow Silveraxe. These first two adventures take place in a magical forest, and while Silveraxe isn't specifically designed for the Dolmenwood setting, its hex crawl map design would make it easy to fit with the hexes provided in the first two adventures. Combining these three adventures creates a campaign that would get players from 1st to around 7th level. While Old School Essentials is a more expensive retro clone on this list, its design aesthetic is definitely worth the price. Number 6, Index Card RPG. This is one of the newest games on the list. With a sleek, streamlined design, it's designed for faster and more cinematic play, which makes it the most unique game on this list. It still uses the 6 D&D style attributes, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, but the effort dice mechanic provides a unique playstyle. The adventure, Age of Snakes, is packed full of content for Index Card RPG. It contains 3 adventures, but it also contains 15 regions full of plot hooks and 8 different factions. The regions and factions give you plenty of ideas to design your own encounters to weave in and out of the 3 adventures. Plus, the greatest strength of the Index Card RPG rule set are the Dungeon Master tools and Dungeon Master advice. If you are just as interested in creating your own adventures as you are running somebody else's adventures, this is a fantastic option that not only gets you started, but helps you run future campaigns. Number 7 is Ruins of Simba. This game is a masterclass on how to build a setting. If you like playing 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, you really need to check out this game. It is built on the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons game engine. It retains all the core mechanics of 5e, but they add rules for social encounters, exploration encounters, chases, and strongholds and land management. None of these new systems overcomplicate the game, but they provide solutions to the many weaknesses that the 5th edition version of the game has. So it essentially is a better version of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. The second thing it does remarkably well, it incorporates the setting into the player character mechanics, helping you connect your character to this giant forest oozing with the corruption of dark magic. There are 4 Ruins of Simba books that are absolutely worth purchase. The Player's Guide, the Bestiary, the Game Master's Guide, and the Adventure Compendium. The Adventure Compendium has 7 full-length adventures that will take player characters from 1st level through 8th level. This is definitely the most expensive option on this list. Just the 4 PDFs will run you $95. So it barely meets our under $100 threshold. If you were to get all 4 books in hardcover, it's $168. But if you're on a budget, I think it would be worth it to get the player's guide in hardcover and the rest on PDF. Overall, that's definitely worth the price. And the company Free League that makes Simba only releases the best quality products. Not only is this a great game system and a fantastic setting, the books are great quality and gorgeous to look at. If I was only allowed to play one version of D&D, this is the game I would choose. Number 8 is Shadowdark, and this is the newest game on our list. In fact, it's so new you can only get it on PDF. Like Index Card RPG, Shadowdark has sleek and sensible design for simpler and faster play. In addition to the core rulebook, the free Game Master Quick Start Guide comes with a first level adventure, and there are 3 zines available to download. Each one has a dungeon adventure and a wilderness map. All of this combines to give you a campaign that would take player characters from level 0 all the way through level 6. So for $62, you can download the core rules and an entire campaign. I think Shadowdark is the easiest way to start playing D&D. Number 9 is Pathfinder. And yes, I know the whole point of this video is built on the premise that Pathfinder is releasing a new edition and brand new gamers probably don't want to buy a bunch of Pathfinder content now. However, one affordable way to do it is the Pathfinder Beginner Box. While it's twice the price of the Dungeons & Dragons box sets, it has much more to offer. You get a rulebook, an adventure, full color character sheets for the pre-made characters, individual cards and tokens that help you track the action economy, and 100 cardboard pawns and a bunch of plastic stands. These pawns and stands function as miniatures for your game. To start off with 100 miniatures in your collection is great. So this is a great way to get into Pathfinder now at a very affordable price point. This beginner box only takes characters up to 3rd level. All the Pathfinder 2nd edition rules can be found for free online at Archives of Nethys, so you can continue gaming well beyond 3rd level. To do that, I would recommend the Quest of the Frozen Flame campaign. All of Paizo's adventure paths are really good. Quest for the Frozen Flame has a more narrow focus. It's not the grand save the world kind of adventure. It's a more regional and therefore more personal adventure as players try to save their own tribe. This is a great way to get into Pathfinder now. It also allows you to play it between now and next year to see if you want to invest in the 4 new hardback books. Number 10, the Dragons of Stormwreck Isle box set. So once again, this option is if you don't give a shit about the WotC drama and you just want to play official Dungeons & Dragons. And if that's what you want to do, you're not alone. There's still plenty of people out there playing 5th edition, so you can too. The Stormwreck Isle box set doesn't have all the goodies of the Pathfinder 2 beginner box, but it's only half the price. But if you want to build something comparable, WizKids makes the Idols of the Realms product line. These are 2D acrylic miniatures, and they have a specific Dragons of Stormwreck Isle starter kit, which has 5 hero miniatures and the monsters you need to run the Stormwreck Isle adventure. Combining these helps you create something similar to the Pathfinder beginner box. The Stormwreck Isle adventure goes from 1st to 3rd level, and like we mentioned in the beginning, the Dungeons & Dragons basic rules are free online through the SRD. So after completing Stormwreck Isle, you can level up your characters using the SRD, and the next adventure I would suggest is Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which is a set of individual adventures, which makes it easier to prep as a new DM, but all the adventures connect to make a cohesive story. Technically, Saltmarsh and Stormwreck Isles are in different campaign settings, but that doesn't really matter for your table. Saltmarsh is a seaside village, and Stormwreck Isle is an island. It's perfectly conceivable for these 2 locations to be next to each other for the purposes of your game and your world for your players. And once again, this is enough content to keep you playing between now and the 2024 release of the new game. So there you go, 10 ways to start playing D&D in 2023. I wanted to give you more than just a list of games. So I hope laying out the adventures was really helpful for you. Let me know in the comments. So thanks again for coming to the Den. I'm Brad Wolf. Make sure you subscribe so I can see you next time.